and gentlemen, welcome on into the Buffoon and Bodkins Show. My name is Tanner Dawson of the Whiskey Sports Podcast and the Sports Buffoons. Joining me, of course, always is Nick of the Bodkins Show. Nick, what's up, dude?
What's up, my man? It's been upset city all weekend. Sorry about your loss. Not to bring it up first thing, but I had to. So sorry about your losses. Kansas out. So sorry.
That's all right. Join with us always as any other Monday it is. Jim Behringer coming into play. Jim, what's up, dude?
Yo, what is up, boys?
Jim, I know we normally talk hockey, but we got to talk a little college basketball because I know you are involved as well. You follow it all. What's your thoughts already on March Madness?
I love March Madness. Everybody's brackets busted. New Jersey schools taking care of business. Princeton, FDU. Princeton's off Sweet 16. They handled some business. Right. FDU loses. Happens. It's all right. But I got to give it up. Michigan State, always, Tom Izzo, they know how to handle business this time of year. It doesn't matter where he is in the tournament, what kind of seed his team is. You always got to watch out for Michigan State. Dangerous team. Marquette, they just can't seem to get out of that second round. It doesn't matter who they run into. It seems like they always run into Izzo somehow. But Marquette had a great season. Tournament and regular season Big East Conference champs. Miami's playing well over on the other side. They got a tough matchup against Houston, but they get to the Sweet 16. The basketball team's doing a lot better than the football team. So that makes you. But I mean, look, it's kind of wide open this year in this tournament. A lot of upsets, a lot of early upsets. Day one, it just snowballed, and you know what? It's been fun to watch.
I will say one team that surprised me this year so far would be UConn getting as far as they have. I had them losing in the first round, honestly, just because they've been so up and down all year long. But UConn, honestly, in that South bracket there, or West bracket, has a great chance of potentially get to the Final Four.
Yeah, they do. I mean, look, they were in the Big East tournament. They took on Marquette, and a lot of the announcers were saying how great a win that was for Marquette because they were beating a potential favorite to win the NCAA tournament. And you got to love what UConn's doing, and they're a dangerous team. I mean, you could be honest. You could call them a sleeper team.
They really are at this point.
They really are a sleeper team to me.
I had them losing Iona in all my brackets, Iona. And then I picked them again to lose this last weekend on Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
I had them losing again, and they ended up taking care of business again. So this is a team that is only a couple wins away, potentially making something happen there.
I mean, can you rule out Michigan State getting to a Final Four?
No, not at all.
Not with Tom Izzo.
You can't rule out Michigan State getting to a Final Four. I mean,
dummy me for betting on Sunday against Tom Izzo. Dummy me, right? I should have known better, honestly, going to play. I should at least took the points, if anything, on the spread. But Tom Izzo and that Michigan State crew, they always start out with the hard schedule. The Big Ten's not the easiest cakewalk in the league, and then they come into the tournament, upset the number 2 seed Marquette, who's been lights out the last 3 weeks of basketball. And now
they had some ups and downs in the Big East tournament, to be honest, especially the game against UConn.
Yes.
They had to hold on and win that game. I think UConn blew a chance. They had a timeout. I was watching that game, and they had a timeout to run a couple of plays. Marquette's defense was good. I mean, look, Marquette's seed is number 2. I mean, look, they had a tough matchup. I think if they got by Izzo, maybe they're going to make a run to the Final Four. I was not confident in a lot of the analysts picking Marquette to get to a Final Four. Just the road was just too tough for them.
I had Michigan State kind of here. The team I like too is Kansas State, the team that they're going to play. I like that. That's going to be a tough matchup for both teams.
Kentucky wins huge. That Kentucky wins huge. That's the bigger team against the K-State team that happened in. this Kentucky team or this K-State team going against a Michigan State team, it's gonna be a good matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be a great matchup. I mean, all these matchups are going to be pretty good in the Sweet 16. I mean, that's what you want to get when you get down and dirty in this tournament. You usually want the better teams to be there. Obviously, you never know any given day, how these teams are seeded. Do you really see them as they are seeded? Obviously Alabama's best team right now.
They look like it, right, Jim?
They look like the best team in college basketball right now.
Fully agreed.
Tennessee might be close second. I mean, the way they handled Duke, who had won like 10 in a row at that point in time.
That was a surprising game for me because I thought Duke could make a bigger run in this thing.
I did too. I had Duke in some brackets all the way to the Final Four. And I mean, for Tennessee to kind of handle them the way they did, Rick Barnes, man, I mean, he's kind of been there and done that a lot of times. So
how much is your Final Four guys is still intact?
But I think
four.
I got 3 teams left.
3?
Yeah.
I believe all 4. Let me double check here. I guess my official bracket, the first bracket I filled out, which is always kind of
your official bracket. Your official bracket. No, don't talk about your other brackets. Your official bracket.
I take that back. I got 3. Duke I had in it. So I had Bama, Texas, UCLA.
Oh wow. Okay. I got Texas, Alabama, Tennessee, all still in the mix. I have KU, of course, on the outside in.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously for me, I got Bama there, and then I got on the other side, and then the other team I have is Michigan State, and then the other team that I have there is who else did I put in? Texas I have there, and then I lost somebody else. Who did I lose on the other side? One of the teams I lost.
Marquette? Kentucky?
No.
Purdue?
Where is it? I had. Oh, it was fucking Kansas. Sorry.
Oh, you mean on the West? Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I had too.
Yeah. So
far, I feel good about where I stand still.
Look, everybody asked me about Arizona. I was like I didn't have them going that far, to be honest.
Either.
I didn't have them going that far.
I thought Missouri could beat them actually, and then in the second round, I mean Princeton. Yeah, I mean Jim, you said it. Your guys are there in the East Coast. Princeton's. I had Rob Logan on my show last night. I said, he kind of talked about how good Princeton is. He's like, Princeton makes people play their game. They're going to be a tough out. He's like, they don't fall in that trap. I mean, them against Creighton's a good matchup in the Sweet 16. Princeton could pull that out as a.
I could see Princeton winning. I think Princeton can win that game.
I think
team is what you got for Princeton. That's why I picked them against Missouri to win. I put money on FanDuel and stuff like for that. So I think Princeton has a great chance against a Creighton team that is also similarly on fire like they have been on their home games all season long.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Miami beats Houston.
I was going to say the same thing, Jim. I have that. I have the Canes beating Houston.
That's not a bad pick whatsoever.
I don't hate it, but I also.
But if Houston's healthy and Houston can control the game, they're gonna win.
Houston should take care of business, no problem in this. I had this Miami team losing in the first round in my official bracket, so I don't see this Miami team getting past a bigger team like a Houston team in this case.
They're just more senior later. This is a team that went to the Elite Eight last year. Didn't really lose anybody.
Correct. A disappointment from last year they're trying to capitalize on.
Yeah. Gonzaga versus UCLA,
that's a great matchup.
Hey, a couple years ago, remember they were in the Final Four together. 2 years ago almost? And that game was wild. Oh, Jalen Suggs and all them. There's a lot of good, intriguing matchups here in the Sweet 16, and that's maybe the best matchup as far as the game you're going to want to really tune into.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, guys, we got some comments here coming into play. We got Scott Coe coming into play. Hey, guys, Izzo and Michigan State are Final Four bound.
Would we be surprised? No.
Not hugely surprised.
No.
The Man Cave Media guys coming to play here. Izzo got them boys rolling like he always does when the tourney hits. It's true. You know what's going to happen, too. Scott says Tennessee might go out against Florida Atlantic. I
don't see it. I don't see it.
I doubt it.
I don't see it.
Zion. Arizona. Sorry, not Zion, but Arizona. It's what it is, yeah. Which I agree. I think the Pac-12. I honestly think UCLA should lose this game coming up into play. Scott Cope says there are 0 upsets left in this tournament. Not quite, Scott. Not quite.
I wouldn't. All right, so Scott, would you consider Princeton over Creighton an upset? Yes,
I would consider.
Yeah, but seeded wise, they would have to be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
easily consider.
I would call San Diego. If San Diego State beats Alabama, that's an upset.
Yeah, seeded wise, even if Miami beats Houston 5
but take the seeds out of play. You put San Diego State's team against Alabama's team. Look at the rosters.
Oh yeah, 1,000. I agree with 1,001%. Easily.
San Diego State shouldn't even be this far, to be honest with you, by now. And the fact that they are this far should be a key of this is an upset game that could potentially happen without. Yes, I agree with that.
I'm just saying. I mean, we could throw games out there, but I mean, it's on the other side, not too many. Because you got most of the top seeds are trying to.
I think a Miami over Houston would still be pretty. Critical.
Yeah, I mean 5-1. I mean, I think.
And Houston's been the number 1 ranked team, like them, Alabama, like you know what I mean. They fluctuated in the top 5 all season, really.
Yeah, so.
Right. I think a Miami team beating a Houston team would be a credible upset because this Miami team lost their what their point guard at the end of the season essentially tournament. And they shouldn't be in the point where they are, but they are. So
they are.
I think that's a legitimate upset right there. So, Man Cave Media says McDermott and the Jays are tough out, which I agree. The Miami backcourt is top 3 in the tournament from the start. That matters. Well, maybe top 3, but yes, without their main guy, I think they are still within the top 5.
Scott, you can't say it's not an upset. If Princeton wins, it doesn't matter how they're playing. It's still an upset. If you go to the lines right now, it's still an upset. So you
can't say you expected from the beginning a Princeton team to come this far.
Yeah,
as a 15 seed, no,
15 to an Elite 8, like that would be a huge upset.
That was a huge. Yes, it was an upset.
Putrid Purdue team.
Look, that's an upset.
That Purdue game, I was not shocked at all, and I loved every minute of it because that Purdue team should not have been a number 1 seed. The only reason they were number 1 is because they won the Big Ten.
Yeah, but I would have put Marquette number 1, to be honest.
I would have too. I had them number 1 seed too.
I would have put Marquette regular season and Big East Conference champion. I think you put them over Purdue. Yeah, I would have put them over Purdue. However, for me, the fact of the matter is that FDU is the smallest team in the tournament, out-rebounded the best player, probably quote-unquote best player in college basketball. They had a 7'4" guy. They out-hustled, outworked, outplayed that team. Unbelievable what they did.
And FDU didn't wear an automatic bid either. Like that's what.
No, they lost their conference championship to a Merrimack team that can't even qualify for this thing for another 3 years.
Yeah. And they got the playing game. They had to win the play-out game. They won it by 26 or whatever. They had to come in against a Purdue team, the smallest team in the NCAA tournament versus the biggest team in the NCAA tournament. They did exactly what the right game plan was to pressure the big guy, force him to throw turnovers, which he did a bunch of times, force him in the paint every single time, double team him. It worked out, and it forced Purdue to shoot, and obviously it did not help Purdue it out when they had
And the fact of the matter is FDU out-rebounded them.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. I was hoping FDU would be FAU, but that didn't happen. It was close for a little bit.
Yeah, they just ran out of gas.
Well, it's like every Purdue guy, Man Cave Media. I assume it's,
Yeah, I kind of agree there with the Man Cave. They can't run with Edey. Edey's slow in today's game. Yeah.
Like he's only good for, certain situations, but
I was talking with
a guy.
I was talking with somebody. They don't project Edey to go that high in the tournament, in the draft. He might be a late second rounder.
I was gonna say late second round, if not.
Well, the game has just changed, right? 10 years ago, 15 years ago, he's probably number one pick, right? Like, that's everybody was we're looking for the guy that you can dump it down to, and nowadays the game has just absolutely just changed. It's faster. It's, spread out. The way the game is, it just doesn't quite suit him. I mean, he's not a senior or nothing. I think he's only a sophomore. So let's just see if he can develop a little bit more, and we'll go from there before we, declare like where he's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, even still.
FD after performance in Purdue and one big, which
you
should do in those games. I should have, but I didn't grab my phone quick enough. He won't be in the league in 5 years. His feet will give out. His legs will give out.
He reminds me of a slower Yao Ming, and maybe it's just because they're both Asian. So I mean, stereotypical.
He don't get me wrong, like he's talented, but he's slow enough where he'll be ineffective in the NBA. Just because of the way the NBA, the speed, sometimes it can catch up to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just doesn't work out for that guy. Like he don't get me wrong, he is talented. I don't want to take away anything from him. He is talented, but the speed and everything will catch up to him very, 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 very quickly.
Agreed.
So awesome. All right, guys. We're going to work away from the tournament here. I know it's exciting as it is. We'll work away from the tournament. We got 2 more topics to cover with Jim before we move on from him. I'll let him go for the night. Let's talk about the playoffs coming into play.
All right.
NHL. April 17th is when the NHL playoffs start, guys. We are.
Sorry to correct you. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Sorry. That's just, I'm a hockey snob, but I'm a hockey snob.
Yeah,
sorry,
Tanner. If we learned one thing in the last year or so of Jim coming on here and teaching us hockey, it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Lord Stanley Cup playoffs, Jim.
Sorry, Tanner. Sorry, Tanner.
After the show, I'm going to walk over to my whiteboard I have over here. I'm going to erase it. I'm going to put the Stanley Cup playoffs start date.
Yes. Right? There you go. I like that.
Lord Stanley.
No, that's my bad though. I cut him off. That's my bad. I try to correct people. That's a bad habit of mine. But
I accept it because I'm still learning in the world of what's appropriate for NHL and stuff like that.
Yeah. So see, because everybody else has like their thing. No, we got to be like, we play for the Stanley Cup. It's the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's the NHL playoffs. No. Even guys in the industry even correct others who are wrong in the industry. They're like, oh yeah, NHL playoffs start. No. It's Stanley Cup playoffs, bud.
Stanley Cup
playoffs, bud.
So April 17th, the Stanley Cup playoffs start.
Woo!
We're less than a month away, guys. Going in this thing. So let's talk about it here. Obviously, over this last week here, I'm looking at Boston, of course, already clinching, getting their playoff clinched in for their home advantage. Wild card wise, I think the wild card's the thing to look at here.
Yeah, it just changed tonight.
Because you got Islanders and Pittsburgh in it currently in the the Eastern. Right?
Well, Pittsburgh was in it. However, Pittsburgh lost to Ottawa in regulation tonight, and the Florida Panthers did what they were supposed to do and beat Detroit. So the Florida Panthers are wild card 2 behind.
Oh, they haven't. Who hasn't updated it yet?
Yeah, they haven't updated it yet, but
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's the Panthers have moved past the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yes, so only by a point, but still, they're only a point behind the Islanders for wild card 1. But still, this is pretty much a 3-team race. Yes, the Ottawa Senators are there, 6 points, but I think it's a 3-team race for 2 spots. I really do. Unless Ottawa can go on some miracle run and the Panthers fall off, which I don't see them doing it right now. It's 3 teams for 2 spots. And look, to me, the Penguins, I've never really been sold on them this year. I mean, as much as you count them out, you can never count them out until the season's over. But I've never been sold on their goaltending. The team is older. They're slower. A game against Ottawa on home ice, if you want to make the playoffs of the team, that's a game you have to win, and you have to win it in regulation. I'm sorry. But coming off a disappointing loss to the Rangers. You lost twice to the Rangers. You can't do that.
So are we talking about a Pittsburgh team that's lost 5 in a row now? Is what we're talking about tonight?
That's what we're talking about.
Taking themselves out of the playoff race as we go. That's insane. That's insane. As close as we are to be able to lose 5 in a row when you're struggling to keep your borderline potential.
And prior to that, they had a quiet 7-1-1 over 9 games.
Jim, for us non-hockey nerds, explain to me why it's not just like the 8 teams and why we have 2 wild cards. Because I'm like, I don't understand it as far as like, didn't it used to just be the best 8 teams like the NBA? And why are we calling these 2 wild card teams and just not like, hey, the best 8 get in?
All right, so well, it's technically still the best 8, but it's not 1 through 8 anymore because the NHL wants to believe that there are rivalries in the playoffs, which there are. But then they had rivalry night on TV, and then they're just like, all right, well, we're going to stick with it. And Gary Bettman at the owners' meeting is like, well, we like the playoff system's working. No one said it isn't. Meanwhile, you read Twitter and everywhere. The players want to go back to 1 through 8. But the problem is if you actually did 1 through 8 this year, like you did last year, it's still the same 8 teams. And the teams that are supposed to be playing each other would be playing each other anyway. So good teams are going home. But I like the old format of 1 through 8 because it actually matters. Like home ice kind of matters, and what you did in the season, it matters, especially for a team like the Bruins. But now they wanted to add the wild card to make it more exciting, the parity, all that.
So what does that mean? Like, what are the 2 wild cards? Are they still going to take 1 and 2? Is that what like? And everybody else that matches up still like 3 through 6.
So the last 2 wild card teams. So wild card 1 would play the second best record in the Eastern Conference. So technically they would face the 2 seed.
Yeah, so because they're the 7th seed, right?
Right. And then the second wild card team, which would be the 8th team, would play the Bruins.
Well, that's just like 1 through 8. I don't understand it.
They wanted to make it more exciting down the stretch. And then you hear everybody talk about, oh, we need these playing games. I'm like, no, you don't. You've this year and last year, you've had games coming down the stretch. The final 20 games matter, and they're playing games right now.
Yeah, don't get too gimmicky. The NBA is getting like that. We got to have, the play-in games. I mean, you had 82 games. If you can't figure out who your best 16 teams are in 82 games, you got some problems.
I said this before on the show, and I'm going to repeat myself, and I stole this from Dan Patrick. It's like the NCAA tournament. If you don't make the NCAA tournament, you should be fired. Like, you really should be as a coach. Like, you should be fired because the regular season. If we had more playing games like they had in the bubble, it was fun because it was a novelty. It was for the bubble or whatever. But then you're just telling me the regular season doesn't matter.
Amen.
You play 82 games that are quote unquote playoff games, and right now the ones down the stretch, especially for teams like the Panthers. For teams like the Islanders, the Penguins, even for the Devils and Rangers, the seeding, these games matter. And then you're going to just throw it. So if we added, in the Eastern Conference, right, say we had these plans. So you're going to tell me Ottawa and Pittsburgh, are we going to have those teams in there minus goal differentials? Then you go to the West. You're going to really tell me Calgary and Nashville deserve to be in this thing? Like, the 8 teams are going to be the 8 teams. And that's the way I look at it. And that's the way you need to. We don't need any more. You don't need anything more because the NBA, to me, the play-in, it's just a lot of bad basketball.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's all just a bunch of teams that you can't get it. And I think hockey would be the same way. It's like, if you can't figure it out after 82 games, baseball, same way. Like, stop with this little gimmicky shit. I mean, let's go.
I agree, Scott. They should.
The only thing they should really do is reseed after the first round, which I think would be a beneficial. But they want this divisional format crap, and it's just getting out of hand. And you look at the East, like I said, Florida's there now, and then you go over to the West. I mean, Calgary, they got a big game against the Kings tonight. LA, they need that to keep pace with Vegas in the Pacific. The Flames are only 4 points behind the Jets. Calgary needs to pick up points, but have they really shown consistently enough that they can get in? No, but they're right there. And this was like Vegas and Dallas last year. They were right there, but Vegas couldn't get the wins that mattered. Let's see if Calgary can string some games together. They have yet to prove it that they can do it.
Is the West set then, Jim, for the most part? You think it's going to be Seattle and Winnipeg? Calgary's not going to get in, right, with this less than a month away?
Unless something really changes, because the Jets are doing – I mean, look, the Jets are losing just as much as the Flames are losing. So, I mean, if the Jets can somehow get it together, I have more confidence in the Jets because I've seen it more consistently than I have from the Flames. But – if the Flames can turn it around, I think the 8th seed's still wide open in the West. I think it's between Calgary and Winnipeg.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you there. I want to know, this Colorado team, they're catching fire here. They got 4 in a row. We got wins against Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and Detroit over the last 4. They're up facing Chicago. I believe they're up 1-0 right now against Chicago. Do you think this Colorado team maybe climbs in their seeding, getting close to the playoffs?
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they get the top seed in the Central, and I wouldn't be shocked if they come out of the West. I think they're that good of a team. The goaltending's better. Defense is what it is. They're going to get Landeskog back probably for the start of the playoffs. Look out for this team. I mean, they're going to be a deadly team. They were looking for consistency as well at the beginning of the year, but after January hit, All-Star break, they're starting to get it together. This team is dangerous. McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, all those guys on the back end. Nichushkin. I mean, they still have some injuries that they have to deal with, but this team is dangerous.
Gotcha. Our boy Tufel over there that sits in Colorado right now, Landeskog skated today, a red sweater. What does that mean here coming to play?
He's getting close to returning to the lineup.
They're the defending champs, right? If my memory serves me right, Jim?
That is correct. Defending champions. And I would not be shocked if they get back to a Stanley. I shouldn't say they're not going to struggle, but I think that, if you look at the teams in the Western Conference, who do you have the most confidence in? I would say if Colorado's there, I'm going to take Colorado. Why not? They're Stanley Cup champions for a reason. They've shown they can prove it. They can get it done.
So we got a couple comments here. Scott wants to know first, what is Vegas missing to get in the Cup Finals?
Mark Stone. That's what they're missing. They're playing better right now. Jack Eichel's taking his game to another level. But they're just, can their goaltending hold up? Is Jonathan Quick the answer to get them to a Stanley Cup final? And can they come together and have that team unity that they had when it was them against the world in their first year?
Gotcha. And Scott wants to know, second, does Jim see anyone not in the playoffs now getting in?
Man, if you asked me that like last week, I would probably told you the Panthers, and they're right there. Man, if you look at the standings, if Ottawa was playing a lot better and their gap wasn't as big, I'd say I wouldn't sleep on the Senators. I think the West is set. I think if Calgary gets their act together, Calgary can get in.
I like it. And finally, Tufel out here says, this man knows his hockey. I dig it.
Well, I appreciate that.
Jim Behringer is the man.
I know my hockey, Tufel. You ain't got a lot of me, baby. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I know my hockey, baby. Hey, I know Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and them boys, baby.
Yeah, those boys were great.
Jim, you're at Jim Behringer on Twitter, correct?
That is correct.
And then you got also Full Press Hockey as well.
That is correct.
So guys, go fullpresshockey.com. Find Jim Behringer. Also follow him on Twitter at Jim Behringer, because you can find all the updates that he gives in that play. And then Tufel says, have to grease Bodkins now. And then
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do.
That's a
no, Jim. Hey, you guys, and always tune in. Jim is here. If you're just down tuning in, Jim is here every Monday. Me and Ted, I have learned so much. We've almost hit our year mark here, and on the Buffoon and Bodkins, and Jim has been a regular almost every Monday. And my mind has expansionally grown learning about hockey. So Jim is.
I'm right there with you. Like, I'm actually interested now that we're getting closer to the playoffs. I've stayed interested. I've even bet hockey a lot, in my betting, bets and everything. So, like the fact that we're learning more and more about this, I think next year's only going to come even more.
I mean, guys, look, this is the best time of year to be a hockey fan. From the trade deadline on, this is when the game gets going. I mean, if it was up to some owners, I've heard this, at some of the meetings, if it was up to some owners, they would want to start later, like in December, avoid the NFL. Some want to start earlier, but they don't want to conflict with the NFL. Look, this is the most exciting time because there's really, baseball's only getting started. There's no football, basketball's here too, but the way things are, every game matters right now down the stretch, and those are tune-in games. Playoffs start the 17th. Who doesn't love the Stanley Cup playoffs? I mean, exactly. That's the best. It's the hardest. It's the most difficult trophy to win in all of sports. You have to win 4 games in a best-of-7 series 4 times. Like, you could potentially play 28 games
before it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Scott here, final one for Jim here. Jim has got to come on the Johnny Cruz. Scott Cope show. Because Johnny Cruz is on before the NHL start.
Hey, you can get my contact information from these boys right here. I'd be glad to come on and talk some hockey with you guys. Absolutely expand the brand, expand the network. Again, sorry boys. I know you guys had the thing for Dan on Saturday, just wasn't around. I had to do my thing.
Right.
But I just want to give a shout out to him right now. Without the community that we have, this is not possible.
Amen to that, brother.
Right there, man. Scott, just go ahead and DM me. It's a 70-30 split, so I'll give Jim 30 of it.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. I like that. I'll take that.
Too full out here since the Devils used to be the KC Scouts. Fun fact.
Yes, that's true. That's true. They used to be the Kansas City Scouts, and then they moved and became the Colorado Rockies, and now are the New Jersey Devils.
Look at Tufel out here.
Hey, look at you guys.
But he knows NFL and NHL. That's what I like to have.
Hey, look at you guys.
Scott says Game 7 in the NHL is the best words in sports.
Ooh.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Game 7. Nothing like a Game 7. Everybody's glued in for Game 7. Could be a hero.
Scott says, Tanner, you can come on too. Scott, man, here's the thing. It's like I do the 70-30 for Jim. Jim says 70-30 back. So like it equals out in the end, man.
Absolutely.
Tufel says Game 7 is great, but I like seeing the ass whooping in 4. That's fair.
When teams don't deserve to be in the playoffs, I'll see.
That's what happens, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that.
Yeah, I'm fair with you. I like it. So let's transition. Real quick transition. Before we get to Jonathan out here, who's waiting in the queue, I want to know April 1st, WWE Wrestlemania coming into play finally.
Yeah.
I want to know, give me one key storyline this week that we got to watch for coming into play here in the next couple weeks.
There's only one storyline that's meshed over everything. It's Cody, Sammy, Kevin Owens, and the Bloodline. That's all you got to know going in WrestleMania. That's all anybody cares about. Cody's going to headline night 2 against Roman for the titles. Usos and KO. Usos taking on KO and Sammy for the tag belts. Should main event night 1. Probably won't, but it should.
Looks like we're getting Charlotte and Rhea main event in that, I think.
Nobody's going to care about that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The build to that match has not been good because she's been too much involved in that Rey and Dominic storyline. So that feels just so cold. The hottest thing right now, outside of the potential return of the Elite, is this Bloodline storyline with Cody.
This is the best storyline the WWE's put together in, I think, half
years.
Years. Yes. This is the best thing going. As a fan, as somebody, even if you would have to, so like to catch somebody up, you have to kind of go back and kind of give them the backstory on everything of what happened. But man, this storyline, the Sami Zayn storyline and the Bloodline has been absolute. They have nailed every bit and piece of it, even including last Friday night in your hometown of Kansas City, Tanner.
Right.
Oh yeah.
We got the big group hug. They hugged it out, Owens and Sami Zayn. So like you knew it was like it's if you read the dirt sheet, you kind of know what's going to happen, but you just want to see can they nail it, and they're just nailing it and in piece after every little bit. I'm excited to see how it all kind of plays out in WrestleMania. Where Solo Sikoa is going to fit in. Is Sammy and KO, are they going to help Cody? Are they going to form some sort of alliance together? I mean, this is like gets my little kid heart going because it's like being a young kid again, and you're excited to you want to know what's going to happen.
To me, that's the only thing that matters on this show. The rest of it is it's there. To me, this is what I want to watch. This is what I'm looking for. Obviously, I'll watch the whole show. I mean, it's 2 nights. Who's not going to watch WrestleMania?
There's some good stuff. Some matches I think are going to be exciting to see. It's weird. I'm actually getting more intrigued of this Dominic Mysterio Rey Mysterio. I don't know why.
because Bret said it best. Bret Hart said it best, and everybody who knows me knows I'm a Bret Hart guy. When he took on Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10, that story, something about families feuding in the United States just works.
Yeah, it's because maybe it's because I'm from a dysfunctional family and I've always wanted to fight my dad at the time too. Like, who's never wanted to punch their father in their face, and it's just like, and Ray is not wanting to do it, and I'm just like, I know they're going to pull the trigger eventually, but when is it going to happen? And I'm just like, maybe it's going to happen at the Hall of Fame ceremony, right? Like, oh, that would be great. Like he just does something crazy at the Hall of Fame thing, and that's where the match gets made. Like, I'm in Dominic Mysterio, to his credit, he has played a perfect heel. You're supposed to hate his ass, and I hate him. He is just this crybaby kid, punk bitch, really. And he's going against his own father, our hero from all these years, Rey Mysterio.
So due to Batista having to back down this year, due to filming in Africa, do they fill in with this Mysterio family feud?
Conan.
Yeah, Conan's gonna induct Ray in, and then so that could be like a nice thing that's going on because Eddie was down in Mexico, Ray's been down in Mexico, Dom's looks like Eddie Guerrero, says he wishes Eddie Guerrero was his dad. I mean, they went back to 2005, brought stuff back from 2005, but it's been really, really good. That's probably been the second best thing behind his Bloodline storyline. So WrestleMania is going to be good, but I agree with Trips. It should still be one night. If you look at the card, a lot of fat you can trim, and you can get it back to one night.
Yeah, you don't need this little 4-way thing with Otis and all that. There's some matches you just don't care about, snooze fest. But I mean, the Bloodline, the Judgment Day, I'm even still intrigued a little bit. Is Finn Balor going to bring back the demon character in that Hell in the Cell type shit? Yeah.
He teased it. He teased
Edge,
it.
Like, there is certain guys I want to see.
What was it, like 6 years ago when he first was bringing it out?
Yeah, at NXT. Yep. Yeah.
Well, he did NXT, but then he was doing it again like 4 or 5 years ago. I swear it's been that long.
Yeah, he hasn't. He doesn't take it out that often.
He hasn't done it since the Bray Wyatt. I think at that point in time, and then that match got squashed. Then he wrestled AJ Styles, and that's about the last time we've seen the Demon.
Gotcha. All right. So quick comments here from Scott. Scott says tonight on Raw, Jey Uso was questioned by Roman Reigns. I think Jay is going babyface.
Hey, that's been an intriguing storyline too.
That goes full circle.
Yeah,
at WrestleMania. He also says, I guess the WWE is bringing the whole Mysterio family out for SmackDown, which will it should happen here where he's at, and then they induct Cena. They should induct Cena in the Hall of Fame.
I think that's next year.
Yeah,
I think this
is his retirement match with Theory. I mean, they haven't said that, but it's Cena's only got 1 or 2 matches. I'm even intrigued. I need to see more Cena. in these verbal bouts with Austin Theory. That's the problem with they do these part-timers is they're not there and we don't get the build that we need. If Cena was full-time, him and Theory getting that build is what that we need. We've only had it like one off, and here we are 2 weeks away from WrestleMania.
I think it'd be a shame if Cena lost to Theory just because.
Well, he needs to lose to Theory.
Yeah, you got to put the Undertaker over.
But I just think it's a shame that he has to lose to an Austin Theory.
Well, he's got to do the right thing. Look, The Rock got his win, and then he put Cena over. Unless there's a two match series here,
it has to happen.
It has to have Theory go over here.
Yeah, everybody knows in wrestling that's just the code. You put the next guy over.
All right, and we got Two Flat here. Says the last thing I knew about wrestling was seeing Lita's tits uncovered live on TV. Think that was shortly before that.
No, Benoit, man. Wow.
Hey, if you want to see Lita, she's going to be wrestling on WrestleMania too. Lita, Trish Stratus, we get a little bit of that with Becky.
Oh, my heart is like this.
It makes my 13-year-old. Hey, make something giggle in my 13-year-old body again. You know
exactly,
what I mean?
Right, man, dude.
Is that the first night or the second night?
I'm not too sure which night. The rest of the card hasn't really been announced as far as which matches. All we know is that night 2 is going to be Roman versus Cody because that's the headliner. Depending on which dirt sheet you read is what they're going to do with night 1.
Gotcha. Because I'm getting in Milwaukee on Sunday, probably about Sunday late afternoon. So
you should be fine.
Yeah. Don't worry. You just missed the first 3 hours and it won't matter.
Okay, that's fair. Tino's time. What's up, everyone? Tino, welcome in, dude. Wait, WrestleMania is now 2 nights? Yes, man.
It is
two nights.
Yo, since COVID, it's been 2 nights.
This will be the last year it's 2 nights. Thank God.
Thank God.
Hallelujah.
Thank God.
It was bad the last couple of years, so I can only imagine what this year did.
They need to extend even the one night got too long, before it went to 2
Dude,
nights.
it was 7 hours.
It was 7
hours.
Yes, I was like, Jesus, how is anybody, if you're in the stadium, how much money are you spending? Because
So real quick, I was at WrestleMania 10. That was 3 hours ish.
Yeah.
That's acceptable.
I was at WrestleMania 20. That's when they had the 7 p.m. start time. So it was 4 hours.
That's not bad. Still,
I was at WrestleMania 29. It felt like it was 6 hours.
Yeah,
it was too long.
Too
long. Too much garbage. Just not enough good wrestling.
Yeah, I'm agreement. Keep it about 4 hour, 3.5, 4 hour time slot. You're perfect.
Good.
Yeah. I'm right there with you guys on that play.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Well, I'm definitely gonna have to catch up here real quick here. So appreciate you guys updating me on the matches to watch for. So, but we'll talk about it also next Monday night when we talk to Jim Behringer about some updated NHL, of course, going on to play and WrestleMania preview as we get closer next Monday night.
Absolutely, gentlemen. Always a pleasure to be on here with you boys.
Jim, see you later, brother.
See you later.
Yep. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Peace.
Jim Behringer, everybody. All right, guys, let's bring him in. He's waiting in the parking lot from his practice. He's ready to go. This man's ready to talk about the NL Central coming to play, which is one of the teams I'll be seeing beginning of April. Let's bring him in. Jonathan Gershman. Jonathan, what's up, dude?
How's it going, fellas?
Good, man. Good, man. How's practice tonight? Was it too cold for you? What do we got?
I'm hoping this is our last night of cold weather. I'm sick of it. I mean, I don't like. I'm in the South for a reason. I live down south to not deal with cold weather in March. So, but practice was good. We got a lot of work in with our team.
What's cold, Jonathan? What's cold?
At this point of the year, anything colder than 60.
Shit, I wish.
If we're talking winter time, we're in December, January. Anything below 40, I'm miserable.
Hey.
But here we are in March. Here we are in March. It's 55 degrees right now, and I got a heavy winter jacket on. That tells you right there.
Hey, it was about 55 here today. I'm walking around without a t-shirt, so you know.
I was yesterday. It was 33 degrees here, and I'm walking around like it's 55 because I had just a t-shirt and my jeans. And
Saturday was cold. Saturday was 20s. It was cold.
My neighbor popped out yesterday, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "It's like 32 degrees." I go, "Is it really?" Well, I must have gave up on winter, so because I'm
It-
already
it was Saturday morning at the ball fields. It was 35 degrees. The high it got to was 46. Sunday morning we were at 33 degrees at first pitch. It warmed up to about 57 as the day went on. But I mean, early morning games, that cold weather,
that's rough.
It's miserable at times.
Oh,
But
that's miserable for baseball weather right there.
it is.
Scott says it's 28 in Boston right now.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you
live
keep
in the
Scott-
South for a reason. Like,
Yeah.
I live in the South for a reason. I spent my time in Missouri. God bless y'all. I spent my time in Missouri. That's as far north as I'll live in the winter, and that's about it now. I live in the South. I'm a Southerner. My blood is as thin as soup. It'll always be like that. So,
Jonathan, one day we're gonna hit the YouTube world here and make enough money. I'm gonna send you up for a weekend to northern Minnesota and let you spend.
Don't do it, Jonathan. Talk there.
no, I was supposed to my junior year at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri. We were scheduled to play. I can't remember what Minnesota school it was, but we were supposed to play a Division II Minnesota school in Minnesota in the Metrodome. Before the Metrodome, everything. That was the year the roof collapsed because of the snow that was on top of it. So we were like, well, there goes our chance of going to Minnesota. But I'm like, hey, if that's how much, that's how cold it is, and that's how much snow they get. Nope.
I'm good.
Keep me away from that. I'm not dealing with it.
Oh man, that's great. Now one day I'm gonna get you up there, but we'll figure it out then. So
in June, right? In June.
June, it's nice.
It'll be nice. January 30th weather, perfectly for you, ready to go.
I will say I have on my bucket list to do ice golf. I have that on my bucket list to at least do ice golf one time, and that's about it.
I got a guys for you, so don't worry. I got your setup there.
Gotcha.
I work with a lot of people up there. I got your setup, so don't you worry. All right, Jonathan, let's talk about it, man. Let's bring up this NL Central preview here as we come into play, as we get closer to the start of MLB season. Yes, I know. I'm aware that we're going to be finishing our preview a week into the season. Get over it. It'll be okay. We'll be okay. We'll finish it up with the AL East as we go. So let's talk about it first here. Let me bring this up here. There it goes. Trying to figure out why it wasn't coming up. There it goes. All right, so let's talk about our wonderful NL Central. Oh, before it has a great one here. What does Jonathan think the impact of Corbin Burns' arbitration case will be there? It seems to be a lot of bad blood there.
Arbitration cases, and we've kind of talked on this in the past during the winter. Arbitration cases sometimes can be tricky as far as how you read that from a player's perspective. It's business. It is a business. I mean, as a player, you're going in there with the team telling you basically why you're not worth X, and you think you're worth Y. So, I mean, does it get times where it does get really bad, and what teams will come up with a reason why you shouldn't get paid as much? It does. Does it strike a personal nerve on you? Yes, but it is a business. But at this point, because I've seen a little bit about the Corbin Burns situation, it's going to play a factor in the future. I think it will. Whether how much long, you have that at times where you see a guy, go through arbitration, and it gets to the point of being almost a personal, a personal feeling to it. They get traded in the next year or two. They get traded, or they just say, hey, you know what, I'm not re-signing with you. If you don't trade me, no problem. I'm going to go hit free agency when it's my time to be a free agent, and I'm leaving and go from there. So, it's tricky. It's tricky to say how it affects a player, because again, they know it's a business, but when you hear why a team doesn't want to pay you, that does strike a nerve.
Yeah, I agree with you. I haven't heard anything bad yet from the Milwaukee clubhouse. At least the contact I have. So
from your source is
my source. So I haven't heard anything bad yet. But when I go up there, for opening day in Milwaukee, I'll let you know. if I hear anything major going on in play. So, all right, let's talk about it here. Let's talk about the opening here. NL Central coming into play today for the preview. St. Louis that finished 93-69. Nice. Differential 135, last 10, 4-6. As we kind of look at this team too, they traded away Randy Arozarena as well. They kind of didn't really lose a lot of people except to retirement and kind of just letting them go. So I'm not overly concerned with this team. If I can share you the roster. I'd be glad to in this play here. So looking at the roster here, Wilson Contreras over here, down here in the catcher. I'm sure Nick feels wonderful about that. And
yeah, it's the best signing
ever. Paul Goldschmidt over there in first. Nolan Arenado over there in third. I mean, overall, this St. Louis team kind of looks like a normal St. Louis team to me. A team that you don't really know what you're going to get, but they could be playoff potential before you know it. So, Jonathan, what's your breakdown of the St. Louis team?
I mean, you go from Yachty, Hall of Fame catcher, for his duration of his career, and you bring in an all-star in Wilson Contreras, who is a top 3 catcher in his own right in baseball currently. So you fill a hole that was left from the retirement of Yachty, and you get one of the better catchers in baseball. That's a huge plus to that team. Nothing against what Yachty was doing in his last year, but it was an upgrade. And again, Yachty was he was a 40-year-old catcher, and you bring in an all-star. So that was a huge bonus to this team that they added to get him in and essentially hurt your division rival in the process of doing it. You have one of the better first basemen in the game in Goldschmidt. You have one of the better defensive third basemen in the game, and who he's kind of figured it out how to hit outside of Coors Field during his time in Colorado, and he's really settling into to what he is and what his MO in Arenado's been as a ball player, and he's supplanted himself as a top, one of, if not the best third baseman in baseball as well.
Yep.
Pitching staff, a little bit of a surprise that Wainwright stayed after last year, because I thought it was a lot of the talk was he was going to retire at the same time with Yachty and Pujols, and all 3 of them go out and go out into the sunset together. He stuck around one more year, so I mean, and he's looking good. He's rejuvenated himself this offseason, playing in the WBC. You have a good pitching staff with along with him, with Miles Mikolas as well. You have a lot of good arms, and as you said, this is a built like a typical St. Louis Cardinals team that we've seen over the last 15 years. And they're going to be a very competitive team, not just in the division, but in the entire NL. They were scary in the last part of the season before the playoffs happened. They were a very scary team. And I think that's going to continue in 2023. This team is really a strong team up and down, lineup-wise, as well as the pitching staff.
Nick, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan hit it. I'm not sold quite on their pitching staff. I mean, Wainwright's 80,000 years old. I mean, Jack Flamery is what I like to call him because the kid can throw heat. Mikolas has got a molestache from, so, I mean, just it is what it is. I think they're going to win this division easily.
Are you mad? Like, I don't understand that. Like, are you just mad because they're not going to, the Cubs aren't going to beat these guys?
Yeah, I mean, I am mad, Tanner. Yes. I mean, Jesus, of course. It hurts my Cubby heart to say that I think that they're going to win this division. My shirt actually says, "Meet Dick." He's a Cardinals fan. And on the back, it says, "Don't be a dick." So, I mean, there's that. So that's how I wore it appropriately for this show today. I obviously despise this team, but God damn it, they're gonna win this division unless something crazy happens. Jonathan said it. They have Paul Goldschmidt, one of the best first basemen in the league. Nolan Arenado. I mean, they got Willie. I have to watch baseball knowing that my favorite catcher of my lifetime is now on the other team after I had to watch Yadi Molina for all them years just be a great catcher, and now Wilson Contreras is there. I hate this team, I hope that somebody takes a plane and just drives it right into Busch Stadium. I absolutely can't stand it. I mean, it hurts my heart to say that they're going to win the division. They're going to run away with it. Do I think they're going to win? I don't know how good they're going to compare up against to the elite teams in the into the National League, but they're going to run away. Unfortunately, they're going to run away with this division. I freaking hate it. I hate the Cardinals. I hate saying it. I hate that I had to come on and say that they're going to win this division. I can't even phony and say that my Cubs are going to beat them. No, I'm being realistic, and I hate it. I hate that I have to be honest and say that they're going to win this damn division. Absolutely hate it. I hope that they make the playoffs, and I hope they don't win a freaking game is all I can hope for, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
So Scott Ayer says Jack Flaherty is definitely the X factor for the Cardinals. And then he also says, Nick, tell us how you really feel.
Oh man, you feel better?
No, I don't, Jonathan. I am in the worst part of my adult sportshood life. My quarterback is leaving my football team because the GM's a freaking idiot. My Cubs sold everybody and trying to rebuild. The Cardinals are going to continue to win again after I thought we had conquered them and we were going to win the next decade, and it didn't happen. I mean, I don't feel any better. This is a bad time to be Nick Bodkins as a sports fan.
Wow, man.
It has been a rough year, I guess, for you, right? I mean, you had the bet that you lost in the, for Super Bowl.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up, asshole. You know?
Oh, it's still made it into one of the best YouTube moments ever, by the way, with that bet winning. So it still worked out. Let's see here. Tufel says, just join us in the kingdom, Bodkins. It's great here.
No, I can't. I want to.
Cody Bellinger.
Oh, yeah, we got Cody. Who bats 280?
That's generous.
Yeah.
All right. Save your win predictions. Save your win predictions for the very end. We'll go down the list here for the very end for your win predictions. So,
I got the Cardinals in first, so
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do, Nick. Don't you worry. After that tirade, I'm sure you do. So, all right. Oh man. All right. Let's talk about this other team here. The second place, Milwaukee Brewers, who blew a freaking lead in the wild card to lose, not to get in the wild card at all. 86-76 as Milwaukee's, the team here. 37 differential, 4-6 the last 10. If we kind of look at what they're at, they kept Rowdy Tellez. They had Lewis Arias still going to play. They lost Colton Wong, Hunter Renfroe. They did bring in William Contreras as well as Jesse Winker. So
I was surprised on that. The Braves got rid of Willie.
I was too. I was very surprised on that. So kind of looking at this team here as I kind of pull it up, I don't mind this team. I don't think they're definitely, not. I think they're kind of gone backwards in a way for this Milwaukee team compared to what they were last year. I think Hunter Renfroe loss was more of an impact than we may see. But overall, I still feel like they play potential here for a second place, third place finish. But I don't know. Jonathan, what's your thoughts here?
I'm selling the Brewers just because, again, what they did last year in a very confusing manner, and you can feel every conversation that the clubhouse had in the media, trading Josh Hader to the Padres was a gut-wrenching punch to this team. And really, when you were competing for the division and you make a trade like that was such a head scratcher. It really, talking about what the Mariners did, trading for Luis Castillo and how much that amped up that team, trading Josh Hader when they did absolutely debilitated this team. And it was just like, wait a minute, we're in contention. Why are we selling a player who's been a key piece to our bullpen? And again, Hader didn't have a good a good stint at the time in 2022 with the Padres. He wasn't really the same player or same closer at that point, but the just the lack of understanding that the players had and why that move was made really set this team back. And I don't know if they still have recovered from that. There's still some moves, as you said, there's moves that they made here and there that have taken place, and you're still saying, like, was that enough? Is it enough to really kind of get this team back in the right direction? And I don't know. I don't know if they are in that direction anymore, and they're kind of taking that step back still, and at least to answer those questions of where they're gonna, what direction are they heading in? And it's really mind blowing that this team has been that kind of a competitive team for the last 5 years. And such a move at such a pinnacle point of the season last year, it has not allowed this team to recover, and they fell off a cliff to where the Cardinals caught them, and they didn't make the playoffs. And so I'm selling until I can see it, until I see that they were able to figure it out and kind of move on from the debacle last year and head and start getting themselves in the right direction. I don't really see it right now. I think they're going to take a huge step back in 2023 right now.
Nick, what you got?
I'm on the same wavelength here with Jonathan. You look at this roster, for them to be competitive, they need Christian Yelich, the former MVP, to get back to being MVP, and we haven't seen that in quite some time. Hasn't quite been the same player since he signed that contract. I don't know what's kind of happened there with him. You look around and it's just like, who the hell are some of these guys? What happened to this team that was in contention at one point in time, is winning this division and trying to make a World Series push? And I think once they made that hater move, like Jonathan said last year, it was just like, if I'm a player, like, hey man, like, we're in this thing, we feel like we can win, and you just traded out maybe the best closer in all of baseball away for what? For who? To help later down the road? I mean, they still got a good pitching staff with Woodruff and Burns there. Wade Miley, if he can stay healthy, like they got a good starter. I worry about their pen, and obviously Devin Williams is not Josh Hader, so I'm not sold on the Brew Crew, which actually I know we'll eventually talk about my Cubs. Actually, kind of gives me a little bit of hope for my Cubs, because the rest of this division is not very good either.
So, from my standpoint here, I think Chris Yelich will get closer to what he was a few years ago. He took a step forward last year from the previous year in the play, but I think he gets closer. I'm not a fan of having Tyrone Taylor as your main right fielder right now. I think you got to look elsewhere in the trade realm, come closer to trade deadline there. But I think it's up to two guys in the pitching staff of where this team leads come into play. Freddie Peralta, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the mound? Can he be effective like he was 3 years ago? Devin Williams, you just talked about him, Nick. Can he be anything remotely close to what Hader was the first half of the season? If he can he be effective? Can he even just be remotely close? That's all it needs to be. Can you be enough to convert 75% of your attempts as saves? Is what it needs to be. So I think those are the two things I'm looking at in this Milwaukee staff.
Well, Devin can, because Devin's been electric. He's an electric pitcher, but again, he's a setup guy. After the Hater, he started getting more opportunities to be a closer. So this is going to be his first full season, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, as the closer of the team.
Yes, correct.
And so that's a whole different mindset you have to have. Guys don't necessarily go from setup to closer and succeed. There's a history of that, so it's going to be interesting to see how different he becomes from in his new role with them. They got some good pieces on the offensive side, but pitching, I'm more concerned about the starting pitching. I know Corbin Burns has been what he has been. I know you have a lot of good arms, a lot of young guys that are still in that rotation, but I don't know if the depth is there like it had been in the past that we've seen when the Brewers were very competitive. I was going to go back to the 2021 season when they were in the playoffs with the Braves, and that pitching staff was electric against them. The Braves were just a hot team, but you were fearful of that pitching staff when you face the Brewers. I don't know if that's there anymore. I don't know how fearful are you of this staff. I don't know how fearful are you of Corbin Burns moving forward right now. just because of how this team has been put together right now. So I think that's a question mark. I'm looking at it, that starting rotation mostly is a question mark moving forward in this season. And if they're not as electric as they had been, they're in trouble.
I think you get to the point of where, last year we saw when they got to the bullpen point, it was a trouble. It was a very big concern because that's where a lot of the line, the runs came into play against us or against the Milwaukee Brewers. So I think that's kind of where I'm more concerned at is how well can this bullpen handle, potentially big innings coming into play. So that's where it all lines up. So, but we'll get in our predictions here towards the end, guys, of course. Next up, this team, they finished third, believe it or not, in this division. Nick's not happy about it, but he might be happy about it later. So we'll see. 74-88 for the Chicago Cubs, minus 74 differential into the last 10. We're looking at signings such as Eric Hosmer at first, Cody Bellinger.
Those were great moves 5 years ago. That's the problem.
Hosmer one was great 5 years ago. Cody Bellinger in center, Tucker Barnhart at catcher, Trey Mancini, DH, Dansby Swanson sitting at the shortstop range. It's definitely an interesting roster as we kind of look at this thing. My early thoughts here before you guys go at it here, honestly, you have big names, but we've seen teams with big names before, and sometimes they don't perform. I'm a little bit more worried about the pitching staff of the Cubs. Can they hold teams down to even a couple of runs? Because I think you got enough offense going to play, but can you hold the teams down to not score in those middle of the game innings? So, Jonathan, we'll start with you. What do you got for the Cubbies?
I want to defer first. I want to hear Nick speak first.
I just wanted you to do it.
Was that?
Nick, you want me to go first?
I'll go. That's fine. That's not a problem. Man, on paper, this is a team, good lineup. On paper, you don't play the game on paper, and you're gonna. I love Dansby. I loved what he did in Atlanta. Being a Braves fan, I loved what he did. He was protected in Atlanta. He was protected, as far as what he was in Atlanta. When things started when he started taking on, a leadership role, he's a damn good leader. I'm not gonna knock that about him. But his performance on field when it matters, when the eyeballs are on him, it wasn't what we saw from in the past where he had to be the guy. He has his moments where he is on fire, and I think he's going to continue to have that moment where he catches fire and he's batting, flirting around the 300 mark at a certain stretch of the season, but that's not who he is as a full season. He is not a 300 hitter, and you paying him to be a guy that's going to lead this team and be one of the, a better offensive player. He's one of the better shortstops defensively in the game. There's going to be a step back. I think there's going to be a step back from Dansby, and I would say that if he was in Atlanta right now, I think the expectation would have been the same way if he was in Atlanta, just because, again, that's what he is offensively as a player. It's the same thing I think we talk about with Bellinger being there. I think that's not a bad addition because, again, it's a low risk, high reward that you get from Cody Bellinger, hoping that the shift band is going to open the field up a little bit more where he can kind of rejuvenate himself. They're going to play good defense. I won't say anything about that. You have a good defensive team here with the middle infielder Horner and Swanson. You have Hosmer, who's a good defensive first baseman still. Yan Gomes has got a good glove behind the plate. Bellinger has moments of being a Gold Glove type of center fielder, but offensively, it could be a high ceiling offensively. It could be a very, very low floor offensively. And that's going to be the scary part is what side of the spectrum is this team going to be when they score runs? Because you have a team in the Cardinals who are going to score runs. We saw that. And that's who I'm not even going to bring up as far as the Brewers, what they can be offensively. The gold standard in the division is the Cardinals. Can you score with them and be able to at least knock them down a peg? I don't know. Pitching wise, I think they could compete pitching with Marcus Stroman being the ace of the staff. You have some good arms in there that have some good quality arms that might be moments where you can match pitching pitch for pitch with. But my concern is going to be on this offensive side of the ball with this team. Can they score runs can they score enough runs to compete for a division title? I don't really think wild card in this division is a guarantee, let alone even something that they're going to be competing with the other teams in both the NL West and the NL East. They're going to have to try to win this division to be able to make the postseason. Can they score runs with the Cardinals to be able to do that?
Nick, what you got?
No, I kind of agree with Jonathan. I think it just depends, man. I mean, God damn it, I don't. This team, I think we are going to be very good defensively with Swanson and Horner. I don't think you're going to find a better shortstop, second base duo in the National League as far as up the middle. That's defensively going to be really good. Ian Happ, really good defensively left field. He can play all over. He can play all over, really. Any position you ask him to. He came alive hitting wise. I really am impressed with this Christopher Morel kid. If you watched this last year, he had some big moments. I'm looking for the key for me is this Seiya Suzuki. He's hurt right now, but can he take that next step? Dipped his toes in the water last year. Can he take that next step and help lead our team? I don't know how much we're going to get out of Patrick Wisdom again. I don't know how much we're going to get out of the bat of Trey Mancini and Eric Hosmer, if at all, or even Cody Bellinger, if at all. I'm praying that what Jonathan is saying is right, that the shift is it and he gets back to his MVP type form, because by God, then we got something. If not, then he'll probably be trade bait by All-Star break, by the trade deadline, because he's on a one-year deal rental. So, hey, see you later. Thanks. We'll take some prospects for you, by God, if we're not sitting pretty. I do think there's a lot of depth in our starting pitching. Do I think we got like the best pitching staff? No. Stroman, it was decent at times. Is he a true number one? Not really. Kyle Hendricks took a step back last year. I need to get him to be back into that number one to number two really role. We don't really have an ace. That's what scares me, is I don't have a guy game 7 who I feel like, here's the ball. Hendricks used to be that guy. Can he get back to that guy is what we're going to need. Justin Steele had some promising at times. Even Keegan Thompson was promising at times. He can be a starter at times. Our closer is Brad Boxberger. Are we really praying that that's their answer? I don't think so. I'm worried about the back end, the closer on the 8th and 9th end. Michael Fulmer's a better reliever than he is, I think, going to be as a setup guy. So I'm not buying. We need, if the Cubs get going at the trade deadline and they say, hey, we can make the playoffs, I think we'll have to go get a closer and maybe a bat. But they're just going to play this out and see what happens. They're not really – this is like we got some pieces. We're going to see how this goes. And then next year, again, we'll try to add more in this rebuilding phase. But they're going to have to extend some guys, Ian Happ, Nico Horner, preferably. But I think defensively we'll be okay. I worry about the lineup as far as can we score enough runs. It might be one game we score, just like it has been for the last 5 years. We're going to score 10 one game, and then the next 3 games we won't score any, and then one game we'll score 5, and the next game we won't score 0. That's just how we've been playing baseball for the last 5 years since we won the World Series. So, the division sucks, and maybe we catch fire, and we're going to make the playoffs, boys. That's what's going to happen.
Jonathan, what's your reaction?
I mean, you don't need Bellinger to be MVP Bellinger. You need him to be over bat 240, 250. And I think you got something there. If the 280 or plus is out of the realm for him. That's just not who he is. He's a strikeout machine. But if he can get close to 240, you're going to take that. Cubs fans will be very happy. And I say that, loosely, because I would never be happy about a 240 batting average. But they'll be happy that he can get that and be able to produce a little bit here and there. He's still he's still a strong hitter. He's still got the power. That's never been a question of him. You have guys that have had a history of producing runs. But as kind of as y'all joked, those were guys who 4 or 5 years ago they were producing runs. Not so much that you can think of that are that still today. I mean, again, Hosmer is not the Kansas City Royals Hosmer. Mancini has been up and down in his lately in the last couple, for time. He has moments where he's been a big bat and he's produced as well, but there's moments where, again, just because of the timeline from what he's had to deal with health wise, that's kind of hurt him back. Taking a step back. I just that's what I think. I think this offense is going to be very shaky. It's going to be very shaky. Can they do enough? Can they do enough to at least compete with the Cardinals? I don't think they're going to overtake them. I don't think that they're going to really truly challenge for the division. But if they can kind of get themselves in a position, be within 5 games, they maybe make a move. Maybe you have some trade pieces that you can go and make some moves for, and try to elevate this team to be a contender status.
Let's go. You believe in. That's what I'm talking about.
There's a little belief there. So we'll find out how far that belief is at the end here. So, all right, let's talk about it. Pittsburgh, 62-100.
We don't need to talk about it. They're filling their team up with Tanner, Jonathan, and myself.
Hey now, 62-100 minus 226 run differential. 6-4 the last 10. This is a team, guys, that really didn't lose anybody key, didn't really get anybody amazing. They got Andrew McCutchen back, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that. But this is a team here that has a lot of potential prospects that could potentially start for them come the start of the year. Karen Hayes, Ronze Contreras, O'Neal Cruz, Henry Davis, Quinn Prissier, Livier Peguero are just a few here to name that here. So it's going to be interesting to see if this is a Pirates team that's more in trade block come trade deadline, or if this is a team that's, may capitalize on early success here. So I'm kind of interested in this Pittsburgh team to see exactly where this is going, because the pitching staff doesn't look tremendous by any means. But again, they're a very young team. Andrew McCutchen's going to help lead that way for at least the hitters going into play. So I'm kind of interested in this one. Jonathan, we'll start with you here. What you got for Pittsburgh?
It's going to determine what they're going to do with Brian Reynolds, though. I mean, again, even if he's already requested, twice now about, hey, he wants out of Pittsburgh. That's your all-star. That's your all-star that you want. I mean, they have Brian Hayes, who came on the scene and did a fantastic job. I think he was also an all-star last year as well. I mean, you have young talent. The McCutchen signing, I think that's trying to bring fans back into the ballpark and kind of get a little bit, hey, let's celebrate McCutchen for what he was, in his time in Pittsburgh back then. Bring him in, and he still produces well, but he's not what he was in his prime. So that expectations for what he can do for this team, it needs to be tempered and just be more of a role model, a role player, which is kind of what he had been over the last couple of seasons. But you have some young talent, like I said, with Hayes, like Reynolds. Cruz has moments where he, throws 97 across the diamond at shortstop. He hits a ball 120 miles an hour off the bat, but he's still got some flaws that he's got to try to figure out and everything. And they're just a young team. They have moments being exciting, and that's great for the fan base to say, hey, we have a future. But how much is that future going to be invested by this ownership in Pittsburgh, by the front office in Pittsburgh? And they've been taking hits with Brian Reynolds right now, who, with a trade request, he wants out. He wants to go play meaningful baseball, and they haven't done that in Pittsburgh in a very long time. So, I mean, potentially this team could potentially be this year's Baltimore Orioles, just because of how much talent they have. But I don't, and I see Nick shaking his head on it. But they're not getting that support that they could be, that they could have that opportunity for, where you bring in people that can really set you apart and move in that right direction. They have yet to move in the right direction, to say, to prove to the young guys who they've been keeping, signing Brian Hayes to an extension. You've had Brian Reynolds, who up until now has been committed to this team, to this city, to this franchise, and he's gotten tired of it. He's gotten tired where you're not progressing And if you're not progressing in Major League Baseball, you are sitting on your hands. You're not going to compete. And he wants to compete now. And I think that's the sad part about this team. This fan base, Pittsburgh loves the baseball. They're absolutely, diehard baseball franchise. This team deserves to be a winning team. The fan base deserves to be a winning to have a winning team. You have pieces, but you have to invest in the right pieces to continue to grow. And this front office, this ownership has yet to do that.
I agree there, Nick. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, they could have. I mean, these young talent, they've always had good young talent, and then they just ship them off to bigger markets. I feel bad for their fan base because like they got one of the nicest stadiums in all of baseball, and their team their ownership just don't care. I mean, they can get guys, but it doesn't matter who they bring in. It's just a recycle of young talent, and they just ship them out. McCutchen is, like Jonathan said, it's like his farewell tour, so bring him back in for his farewell tour. Tip the cap to where he started. It all started his MVP years. Had them in the playoffs a couple times, and obviously didn't amount to anything. But other than that, man, like this team is. I mean, they stink. They're gonna stink because it's just they have one or few good players like Brian Reynolds, Key Brian Hayes is a nice piece, but other than that, what do they have? Like you know what I mean? Like Carlos Santana, who's been around for a long time, older guy, like Rich Hill, the 80-year-old Rich Hill, like they're gonna throw him out there on the
all-star.
You know what I mean? Like this team's not. I mean, they're just. And we talk about all the. I mean, this is a bad baseball team, and because the ownership stinks. The A's, they're just like the A's, the Tigers. Their owners just. It's like, why are they even owners of baseball teams if you don't care to actually go for it?
It's a Pittsburgh team that is going to rely on a lot of young talent, essentially, to be able to do anything. So we're going to see. So,
but they're going to be relevant this year because of Brian Reynolds, and is he going to be traded? Is he finally going to get traded? Who's going to trade for him? What the asking price they've had. As I said, they're wanting a Juan Soto type of deal for Brian Reynolds. You're not getting that. You're not. I mean, that is outrageous. And they put that cap saying we want a Juan Soto type of return for Brian Reynolds, knowing that no team is going to give them that for Reynolds. Reynolds is a good player. I mean, I'm not going to handicap what he is. He's a really good ball player. He is not Juan Soto, though. Like that is.
There's not many guys are.
No, there's not many guys are. You have a handful. I mean, again, Soto and Ronald Acuna are the young superstars, and Brian Reynolds is neither one of them. So putting the price tag on him to get that return, it's just a flat out slap in the face to Reynolds saying you're not getting traded. We're going to keep you. Your contract will be here. It's almost to the point where he has to force his way out, which that doesn't happen in baseball. He'll play out his time, and he'll once he gets into free agency, more likely is probably. I could see him getting traded just by they say finally we'll move you just to try to move you, but more likely he's going to be a Pittsburgh Pirate until his contract's up, and then he can go and do free agency.
Yeah, I agree. We got a couple comments here regarding the Pittsburgh Pirates. Scott Kobat here says Pittsburgh is going to be a sell team at the deadline, which I talked about.
Yeah, Scott, tell me water's wet and sky's blue.
Pittsburgh is a 60-win team.
We're not
thinking they're 60.
Yeah, we're not saying they're not going to be a sell team, but again, it's they've had opportunities to move Brian Reynolds. That's your big piece. They've had opportunities to move him in the last 3 years, and they've refused to do so. Now he's forcing his hand. He's going to force their hand and say, "Trade me now. I don't want to be here." And they're not doing it. They're not going to do it right now. They didn't do it this offseason when they had the opportunity to do it. Imagine what you could have gotten if you're Pittsburgh. What you could have gotten if you traded him last year at the deadline. Instead, you basically lowered your value by him making the request to be traded. And now they're sitting on their hands like, well, we have no choice but to hold you because we're not going to get the return we want, even though we're going to put an outrageous demand on it. We're not going to get the return we probably could have had in 2022. So we're going to hold on to you.
Yeah, you're right. Because that could have been at least a pretty decent prospect, if not a decent reliever for this team. So,
the Braves were interested. The Braves were interested in him last year. They were interested a little bit in him in this offseason. You had a good, a good farm system that the Braves had. What I mean, the William Contreras trade was originally supposed to be for Ryan Reynolds. So William Contreras could have gone to Pittsburgh. They didn't want it was going to be Contreras, 2 minor league pitchers, but they were saying, well, they want a major leaguer. They wanted Vaughn Grissom, who at the time was in the major leagues. And then in 2022, Braves said, no, we're not including him. We're going to throw in Contreras. We'll throw in 2 pitching prospects. And Pittsburgh said no. And so, I mean, they're like, well, that's not enough. Well, that was actually plenty. But I just don't see that they're gonna sit on their hands again. They're gonna keep them and just gonna say, hey, you're here. You might as well deal with it.
Yeah, Scott saying he was one of the best ballparks too, and the Pirates are too cheap. Man, you feel like I'm talking about the Kansas City damn Royals right now with that part. And then he says at least the Cubs won't finish last. So there's that. That's
our only saving grace is the Pirates and the Reds are in our division. The Reds are just as bad.
All right, let's wrap up this NL Central here. We got here. Last year, the last place team, Cincinnati Reds, 62-100, tied with the Pirates, minus 167 differential, 3-7, their last 10. As we kind of look at it here, I mean, again, Votto's gone, I guess, right? So
Votto's still there.
No, Votto's there. Sorry, Votto got the extension. Like, that's your biggest standpoint for this team. Like, we talked about Pittsburgh kind of being young, but I feel like Cincinnati, they have some hope here in spring training lately. But again, it's a team that's going to rely on a lot of young talent. Will Myers as well in the right field now. It's a lot of young talent. I don't know necessarily if they're going to do anything this year as the season goes on. They might have a hot start, but I don't think they got anything to last longer than that. So, Jonathan, what you got thoughts on the Reds? Are they last place again?
Yeah, more likely they're going to be a last place team in the division, just because again, I mean, you're not progressing. You're not, and that's what the whole ordeal was at the in the collective bargaining agreement was. You want these teams to progress. Stop with the rebuild after rebuild after rebuild after rebuild. And the Reds have been one of those teams that have just continued to push the reset button every 2 years. Rebuild. You get some talent, trade, rebuild, get some talent, trade, rebuild. And it's the same story this year for them. Again, you have a lot of young guys. You brought in brought in Will Myers. Great. Will Myers is a decent ball player, but he's not a someone you're gonna sit there and say he will be the
difference maker.
He'll be the guy with Votto to really help this team move in the right direction. You have some top young talent that's going to carry this team. You don't have that with this group. You don't, and they're going to struggle again. They're going to continue to play below 500 ball, and just flounder as one of the worst teams in baseball. Which is again another. It's a sad thing because again this division has got great baseball towns.
Is this the worst division in baseball? Is this because to me, I'm just thinking like, what other team like outside of the Cardinals? Like
AL Central is the worst division, I think.
Yeah, I'd say this is probably the top 2. I'd put this AL Central in the conversation with the NL Central as the worst division in baseball.
I look at the AL Central though. I mean, the Twins, Guardians, even the White Sox could all 3 kind of win that division.
Look, potential. But when you're
outside of the Cardinals, I don't know if there's a team that I'm like, this team could win the division.
I think it's up to Milwaukee and Cubs outside of the Cardinals.
But I would put in the AL Central, I would put the Guardians, Twins, and White Sox above them.
Yeah, the top 3 teams in the AL Central are better than the top 3 teams in the NL Central. I don't think, and it might be a little. It might be a little.
The White Sox, being down on their hitting with trading away their big bat. Like that, that's a tough call, Jonathan.
I think this is the worst.
I view it right now. Whereas, because again, though, I don't know what the Brewers are. Like I said that a second ago. I don't know what the Brewers are. The Brewers believe in their contenders, or they're going to try to just hit the reset button themselves and just say, "We'll trade a few more pieces here because we don't believe this team is actually a World Series contender." They sent that message last year by saying, "We're not a World Series contender. We're going to trade Hader. We're going to get some prospects and start kind of in a way work in the future." I think that's going to happen again this year from the Brewers. I don't know if they believe that they're a contender. The Cubs, they spent money, but they spent money on players who they're not going to elevate them to be a contender. So, you talk about the top three guys. I mean, at least you have two teams that were fighting out for the division in the Guardians and Twins that have made some moves to try to elevate themselves. The only team that's elevated themselves in this division has been the Cardinals, bringing in Wilson Contreras. So I mean, I just top to bottom, this is the NL Central is probably the worst division in baseball. I think there's less expectations in the NL Central outside of the Cardinals to be a World Series contender than there is in the AL Central.
Yeah, I agree.
Nick, I mean, do you have any thoughts on the Reds here?
They stink too. I mean, that's just it. They stink. Like, there's no thoughts. I mean, the Pirates, they all stink. Like, I mean, there's just teams like, I mean, you just know, like, I wonder what, and Jonathan, before we get out of here, like, what you're the closest person between the three of us play professional sports. Like, what is it like what is their mindset going into the 162 games? Like, knowing, like, are they just looking around like, there's no way we're going to win this thing? Like, what's their mindset? Because I've never, like, in high school, I've only played high school sports. I've never thought I never went to a game thinking we were going to lose. And we would go out and lose by 20 sometimes, but I never go in. But, like, that's a little different than a 162 game season. What goes into their mindset? Like, looking around or looking at ownership and be like, yo, we stink. We know we're going to stink. Like, we're not going to, what's their mindset?
You hope to have a strong clubhouse that can at least keep guys motivated. That's the hard part is knowing that you're being set up to fail by the front office. Oakland is being set up to fail in the front office. Pittsburgh and Cincinnati is being set up to fail. So you have to look at the guys who you do have leadership. Cincinnati with Joey Votto. You have that leader, that he is that leader who's going to kind of keep these guys motivated to compete. And that's what you're focusing more. So you kind of have an idea like, hey man, we're just not a good team, but at the same time, it's a job for me. It's a job that I have to continue, because if I don't do my job, especially if you're a young guy on these teams, that you have options that they can send you down in a heartbeat, you got to find ways to compete and be able to do at least something to keep you in the show as long as possible. So the motivation to finding that leadership, again, like I said, Votto is that guy for Cincinnati. Pittsburgh, McCutchen being brought back is probably going to be that leader for them, just because he's been there. He's been in the city before. He's been with this franchise. He was the face of the franchise before, so he can kind of help mentor those younger guys on the team. He can help mentor Hayes, mentor Cruz, and kind of keep things a little bit keep them above water and not sink below too much. Oakland's going to be the hard, as far as in the conversation, Oakland is the hard part to clearly say, because there's really no anybody who's been there long enough to say, look, yeah, it's going to be a struggle. You're going to be fine, though. We just got to continue pushing and staying motivated to be positive in what we're achieving here. And what you're achieving is to keep your job. At some point, you realize, hey, we're not a playoff team. We're not going to win enough games to make it to the playoffs. But you have to perform still to keep your job in the show. You want to be here. Otherwise, they will send you back. And the older guys the same. They have to continue to do their job. Mostly, again, Will Myers could be DFA'd if he struggles at some point with Cincinnati.
True.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things where you find ways to motivate yourself. You have the leadership to motivate yourself, and just, and take your lumps. Take your lumps that you're going to lose these games. You don't admit it. That's number one thing, is you don't admit, like, you're showing up to say, we're going to get our ass kicked. We'll go home, and then we'll do the same thing tomorrow. You got to just say the course on what you're trying to achieve. Win games, keep your job, and do what you're supposed to be doing moving forward to hopefully be extended another contract with another team, or staying in the show another year with the team that you're on.
I like it.
Fair enough.
All right, let's give our predictions here going to play. For the NL Central, who is our bottom feeder? What do you got, Jonathan?
The bottom feeder is going to be the Cincinnati Reds. They're just not a good team. They're not set up to have the contending team, at least not win as many games. I know they shared the last place record with the Pirates, but I think this year is going to be where they're going to hold that last place spot all by themselves.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I got it don't matter. Flip a coin. Reds, Pirates, Reds.
Okay. I got the Cincinnati Reds in last place again this year as well. Pretty close to the 60 win mark. That's about it. So nothing too impressive unless something dramatic happens. But I think they're last place easy. All right, who's our would be considered what, the fourth place team? Who's our fourth?
Pittsburgh. They'll have a slight improvement from what they had. You said they had 62 wins last year. I see them probably reaching about 65. 65, maybe 66. They'll get a slight improvement just because, again, they do have young talent. They have potential superstars in Brian Hayes, O'Neal Cruz. If he kind of gets things figured out a little bit more, he could be a good young piece to kind of build around if they figure out what to do with Brian Reynolds. If they kind of keep him happy, maybe that could entice him to want to stay at least a little bit longer. But you have good pieces that you can hopefully build the future in Pittsburgh around. So they'll have a slight increase in wins. I say about 65 wins and be fourth place in the division. Nick?
Yeah, I'm right there. Like I said, flip a coin between them and the I'll give an edge to the Pirates. I like Brian Hayes just a little bit.
I get the Pirates in fourth, but I think they actually put some competition in for that third place spot this year. I think some of the young guys step up, and you're going to see a little bit of essentially trade value going into the offseason for this Pittsburgh Pirates team. So I got them in fourth, but I got them pretty damn close to third. So, all right, who's our third place team, Jonathan?
Milwaukee Brewers. I just don't buy what they're doing. I don't understand the front office moves they did last year. And again, you completely zapped any momentum mentally that you had with this team, or any positive mentality that you have with this team. And I think that's going to come back and haunt the front office, where you shot yourselves in the foot, not only to your fan base but to your team. And they're not set up to be what they were 3-4 years ago. And I think they're going to have a big fall into the division. They're going to fall in third place in the NL Central.
Nick?
Yep, I got the Brewers. I just think the Cubs added more in the offseason, and I got the Brewers going third here. I just think that that's kind of where I got them at.
I got the Cubbies in third. Not to just take Nick off, because that's fun and all, but I think you got a bunch of big names, and we've seen teams with a bunch of big names before, and they have not performed the way they should. A lot of guys that may have switched teams, atmospheres, and it may not be for the best. So I kind of have the Cubs here. I think they end up third. I'm not saying it's going to be like a close spot there by any means, but I think the Cubbies there finished third. So that's what I got. Jonathan, you got second.
Remind me real quick as far as what the Cubs record was last year.
The Cubs record last year was 74-88.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought it was. The Cubs are going to be in second place. They're going to be a 500 team. I think they're going to have a little bit more of improvement. They'll be a 500 team. This division is going to be a runaway. But again, because of I just see that the Brewers are falling down the hill a little bit. I think the Cubs will take some games away from them, in the division, and they'll kind of get about a 5-6 game improvement. They'll be around 80 wins, getting close to 500. But again, not just out of reach of the division though.
Nick?
Yeah, I'm right there. At best, I hope at worst we'll probably be a fourth place team. At best, I think we could maybe catch the wild card and make a wild card at there. If everything goes the way perfect, we can be a wild card team. This division stinks. We can beat up on the Pirates. We can beat up on the Reds. We can beat up on the Brewers. We play a little bad teams, a couple other bad teams. We win those games. Maybe we don't beat a lot of good teams, but if we beat the bad teams, we can make the playoffs. That's optimistic. Nick speaking. Realist Nick says, we stink. We'll probably finish second. We'll probably finish a game or two above 500, maybe 5 games above 500, and we'll still be in second place. But optimistically, I'm a believer. I'm gonna talk myself into the playoffs until the season, till mid-April, and then I'll say that we stink and we won't go nowhere. But right now, March 20th, I'm going to be optimistic and say we're making the playoffs, baby, and give us the wild card. It's going to break right. We're going to make a nice move, add a piece at the deadline for a closer and a bat, and away we go. Yeah, that's what's going to happen, baby.
That's not optimism. That's wishful thinking.
Wishful drinking, Jonathan. Wishful drinking.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, like I said, you have to have everything go your way in 162 games for that to happen. And
yeah, I say this all the time. 2015, my favorite Cub year, more my favorite year than 2016, because I never expected in 2015 for us to get to the NLCS, and we did. It came out of surprise. Why can't this team be that team? It can be. We got the signing of Dan. We got your boy Dansby. Nico Horner, like, we just got to stay healthy. All right, don't. Hey, I'm trying to be positive. I'm trying to end the show on a positive note, baby.
Because the wild card teams are going to be close to 100 wins with both the Padres.
They're in tougher divisions, baby. They're in tougher divisions.
Oh man!
So Nick, I'm trying to figure out where you come up with this concept that you think your teams will add stuff and trade stuff. You know, the Packers never do that.
It's a difference. We're not talking. Let's go on. I already said I got the Cardinals getting first place. I already went through all that. So, Jonathan, go ahead and tell us what.
Wait, I didn't give you my second place team.
Let's just get out of here. You already
my second place team.
You got your family's team, the Brewers. We know that.
Okay, yeah, I get the Brewers. I think the offense is going to carry this team more than anything, and that's just me being selfish in a way too. But we saw it last year too. The Brewers kind of being carried by the offense in multiple games. It's just a matter of can the pitching stop it? Can the pitching stop the bleeding? So we'll have to see. All right, first place. Obviously, I think we're all in the same. But Jonathan, what's your reason for the Cardinals?
Cardinals are just the best team. I think this is going to be a runaway division. I don't think it's going to be in close. You know, they'll be around 95 wins. They'll like I said, the division will be wrapped up by at least figuratively by August. I just don't see that anybody can really in this division match what the Cardinals do offensively with Goldschmidt, who's going to be an MVP candidate again. Arenado has moved himself into an MVP conversation as well. So you have two guys going to be fighting it out for an MVP. You have the best, one of the top three catchers in the game, replacing a Hall of Fame legend or a future Hall of Fame legend in Yadier Molina. They play good defense. They run very well out in the outfield. They play good defense behind the pitching staff that you have. I mean, this is going to be a dangerous team. How dangerous compared to the top, to the top three teams in the East and the top two teams in the West? That's to be determined. But if we're just focusing on the division itself, I mean, this is going to be a runaway. It's not going to be even close. The Cardinals are heads and shoulders better than all four other teams in this division.
Nick.
I gave you the Cardinal rant at the top of the show. I told you, don't make me say it again.
Say it.
I said, goddamn, I said I said it. I'm not saying it again.
You're good. I got the Cardinals as well. I think in a way, like, you may see the names, you may not think they're reloaded, but they reloaded. And I think they're going to be just fine. They even start off with a slow start as well, kind of like they did this past year, and end up.
That's just the Cardinals. They do it every year.
They do it every freaking year, and I think it's what you can see. I think the Cardinals, kind of like someone what Jonathan says, essentially run away with it. It's not going to be much of a ball game this year like it was last year. So that is your NL Central preview for 2023, guys. So make sure you guys leave a comment, like the video, and I want to know who your favorite is in NL Central. Put that below here, guys, as we go. So, Jonathan, what do you got coming up this weekend? Any tournaments? I know it's supposed to be a little warmer this time.
Oh, I hope so. It's supposed to be in the 70s over the rest of this week, so I cannot wait. I mean, I was on the golf course today, and it was miserable. But I'll be on the golf course. I'll be on the golf course when it gets a little bit hotter. But yeah, we're back in action. I got 4 teams in action this weekend: 3 softball, my 1 baseball team. We're all playing. We're all on turf, so it's supposed to rain on Thursday. Which for the last 4 weeks, it's rained on Thursday here in Dallas Fort Worth. Why? Couldn't tell you. It's Texas. But we're all on turf this weekend, so there should be no rainouts. Thank God so I don't have to get my head scrambled around a little bit again for that. But we're got a lot of teams going this week, and I'm going to be traveling all over Dallas Fort Worth again. I love it though. So it's just another busy weekend. All these girls, all the girls playing. We have some achievements that we're going to be. Hopefully, these girls will get a couple of the girls that are. I keep their totals, like how long if they've been with us for over a year, their career stats with us. We have a couple of girls that are close to milestones here in the organization. So we're going to be hopefully getting to celebrate them and their achievements. The boys are in action this week. I'm going to be watching them and helping them out a little bit more. I'm good to be back on a baseball field, which I enjoy. I can't wait to and see those boys grow a little bit more this week and kind of see how they compete. So it's fun filled. Busy as can be, as always, but I love it, and I can't wait for it.
Love it. Love it. All right, Jonathan, we'll let you go, man. Appreciate you. Alpha Performance, look it up on Facebook. It's amazing. So,
see you, Jonathan. Best of luck to you, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. All right, guys. Jonathan Grishman. Always great to talk to for MLB stuff. So, long season coming ahead. Nick, what do you got coming up, man?
Thursday, me and Johnny Cruz be back at it. Talking a little the NCAA March Madness, kind of breaking that down, and a little bit of everything. We'll see.
Love it, love it. I know the Buffoons here will probably talk NFL again. I talk a little bit about the WBC. Is it worth it for some players? So obviously, lots of injuries coming into play with Altuve and Diaz. So. But we'll kind of maybe discuss that on Wednesday. And then NCAA tournament stuff going on in the Whiskey Sports Podcast world. So I got some stuff coming in, got some NFL draft content dropping the first of the month. Super excited as we get closer to our NFL draft day here in Kansas City. So Nick, I think you're joining us, hopefully. So,
I am. I'm going to come Thursday. I will be there Thursday for night one. Don't think I'm gonna stay the rest of the weekend because my whole month of April is booked every weekend. But I was like, I'm gonna come Thursday for sure. So I will be there for round one.
Well, I'm excited for it. You're definitely part of this crew, so excited. All right, guys. Well, next week, Buffoon and Bodkins. We'll continue talking about NHL preview. We'll continue to talk about the NCAA tournament, most likely. We'll talk about the Wrestlemania event coming up in 1 week from next Monday. I guess not really 1 week, but April 1st, guys, that following week there. And then of course we'll talk some more MLB. We'll talk about we'll probably talk about NL East before we talk about AL East as we get into play. So full fun stuff. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Make sure you guys leave a like for us as well on Let's Talk Sports and the Whiskey Sports Podcast and the Bodkins Show. Make sure you guys subscribe as well. We appreciate you. Please have a wonderful week. Enjoy some basketball. Enjoy some WBC as it continues going on. Teams get eliminated.
Hey, Japan. It's Japan, USA. Japan hit a walk-off to beat Mexico to advance Japan, USA in the final.
So it is Japan, USA.
Yes.
Guys, make sure you guys tune in because that's going to be a great matchup right there. That's insane. I didn't know that.
Happened as we were on air. Got the update.
Oh, man. Scott says great show. Scott, we appreciate you, buddy.
Appreciate it, Scott.
Scott will be actually in the hoop for the Sports Buffoons here this Saturday. So excited to get him on. So, all right, guys, everybody have a wonderful week. We'll catch you next Monday night. See you guys.